Hello to all you Patriots out there in podcast land, and welcome to episode 123 of Canadian Patriot Podcast, the number one live podcast in Canada. We're recording on Monday, March 12th, 2018.
Hi, I'm Gavin, a business owner, gun enthusiast, hunter, atheist, and a CCFR field officer.
I'm Better Andrew, sport shooter, and I haven't eaten any Tide Pods.
Yet.
As always, my name is Andrew. I'm a recovering libertarian and competitive shooter and a firearms instructor at Ragnarok Tactical. I should have been specific in the show notes. I'll read this because it is unclear. We'd love to hear your feedback about the show. Please visit CanadianPatriotPodcast.com or email us feedback at CanadianPatriotPodcast. Or email us at feedback at CanadianPatriotPodcast.com. There are versions of the show on iTunes and Stitcher. Patreon, of course, has the better quality one, and someday I might get around to finishing the Spotify application.
Check out the podcast on Facebook.com/Canadian Patriot Podcast and Instagram at Instagram.com/Canadian Patriot Podcast.
We need your help. To support the show, visit www.patreon.com/CPP and become a Patreon. You can get the uncensored audio version of the show for just $1 per episode. The more you pledge, the better the rewards are, like cool drawings done by me. So yeah, show that you're not a communist and buy a CPP t-shirt for just $19.99 plus government theft and shipping. So visit CanadianPatriotPodcast.com on the homepage and follow the links on through. They're on the right, as they should be.
All the good stuff is on the right. Arrowhead Coffee is owned and operated by Canadian Armed Forces veterans. They love our country, the true north, strong and free, family and friends. Join Arrowhead Coffee on their hunt for the perfect brew to raise morale and bring that feeling of home to you no matter where you are. A portion of all profits helps Canadian Armed Forces veterans, members, and their families. Let's get into what are we drinking. Clearly, I've been drinking because ad reads are hard today. Andrew, what are you drinking?
Start off with the Summersby, then finishing off the Quarter Lake cider.
Right on. Evan, what are you drinking?
I am drinking Crown Royal and Coke Zero this evening.
All right. And I am also drinking Crown Royal, but, Northern Harvest Rye because reasons. We don't have Gavin in the show notes. Yeah.
Oh, sorry. I missed that one. It's too busy taking a drink.
I understand. Let's start with something fun. CTV News. Ontario MP tables bill to lower voting age to 16. I have the audio of that MP. I'd like to share it with everyone.
You could buy a membership in a political party at the age of 14, and in doing so, help shape political platforms and choose candidates. So what we're saying, we're demanding more from our youth than we ever have before. We expect more from them and their studies. Let's give them more responsibilities to fulfill.
No.
Yeah, I think that pretty much sums it up.
Hard no.
Hard no. That's...
Yeah. If you can't legally operate a car on your own at that age, why should you be able to, I don't know, dictate the direction the country takes?
Yeah, this is frustrating for me. Like, as our youngest panelist alluded to earlier, certain people of that generation eat detergent.
Yeah. It's funny, when they put the warning labels, they were talking about toddlers. They didn't think that teenagers would be doing it too.
Which is kind of
smarter than that.
In and of itself, because toddlers can't read, so putting a warning on it.
Well, it does say keep them away from your kids or something like that. I don't know.
But other people's kids.
Yeah, here you go. Give them away.
Have at her.
I don't know. You need to be told to
now.
not eat detergent or to not let your kids eat detergent.
Yeah.
You've got bigger problems.
I know. This is anecdotally, we should probably we should probably discuss. I should stop. I should apologize and stop saying like to the listeners. It has been a long day, and I have had like a lot of alcohol to like drink. The point that I'm making, trying to arrive at, is that do you remember when you were 16? Andrew, that's probably not so hard for you. For Gavin and I, that's a little more challenging because there was a lot of alcohol between then and now.
There's a lot of alcohol then too.
Well, that's kind of like that's the point that I'm getting to. Is like, do you remember being 16 and making a lot of bad decisions?
I remember making a lot of bad decisions when I was 20.
Yeah.
Yeah, like, are there things that you regret doing when you were 16 because you were young and inexperienced and thought it was a good idea at the time? Because, like, I mean, really, my life can be summed up as, well, I thought it was a good idea at the time.
I voted for the Green Party when I was 18. That's a stupid idea.
I could think of stupider ones.
No, but that's what, like, imagine when you were 16. Like, recall back to when you were 16 and think about the things that you did.
I sat around
whether or not you should.
Yeah, I smoked a lot of pot.
Yeah, should you have been allowed to vote? Probably not. I certainly shouldn't have.
Good. I'm not sure that frame of mind to vote.
I'm not sure that now I should be allowed to vote, and I'm an adult with children. Like, this is. I'm still not convinced that I'm actually like experienced enough to vote. And we do a show every week that talks about politics, and we're incredibly well read, or at least I like to think that I'm well read on the subject.
I'm well
drank
on the subject. That's what I would like to say.
I hear that.
No, this is
think of how stupid the average person is, and remember that half the population is stupider than that.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, their vote is the same as yours.
Yeah.
Or sorry, it means the same.
This to me is a Toronto Liberal MPP that is trying to
buy votes.
Well, he's trying to buy votes, and he's the old white guy demographic. Like, this is someone who's in his 50s, I would hazard a guess, who's trying to be hip with the kids and failing miserably. And I mean, like, I understand. Again, apologies to the listener for the use of the word "like." I really have to get better at that.
Fuck that noise.
I understand. I understand that they need to reach that younger demographic, but you're in Toronto. The old white guy thing probably not working for you anyway. You're a Liberal MPP in Toronto. I get it. You want to continue to remain in government because it's easy money. Can't fault you for that. But allowing 16-year-olds to drink or to vote because they're allowed to drive doesn't make any sense. Like, if we're going to be consistent in the application of our laws, then let's make 16 for everything. You can vote, you can join the military, you can pay your taxes,
buy alcohol, smoke cigarettes.
Yeah. Like, let's just make it so that everything happens at 16.
Can't buy guns at 16.
Well, yeah, and I mean, like, you start listing these things off, and suddenly allowing 16 to do them doesn't seem like a good idea.
They're not old enough to do that. Exactly.
And I mean, I think this comes from a place of, like, again, apologies to the listener. This comes from a place of genuine concern. At age 16, we'll provide a mixture of school structure and family engagement that ensures high registration, interest, and participation. And I think that that is a great thing to try and motivate the youth to be more involved in our political process.
Yeah,
more young people should vote.
Being a member of a party is a great way to do that.
Absolutely. Being a member of a party is a great way to do that. Being involved in your riding committee is a great way to do that. But allowing...
Yeah.
I shouldn't even say allowing, because this is not allowing. This is trying to increase the demographics of the people who are likely to vote for the Liberal government because of the free stuff and marijuana.
Yeah.
It's like, remember when you were in high school, remember the people you went to high school with, how many of them would vote in favor of legalizing weed, regardless of whatever else the party said?
Yeah.
Because most of them probably didn't pass mathematics, but they knew how to do drugs.
Well, can you imagine, you know, they push through voting at 16, right? Okay. Next election comes up and they think that they're going to have a hard time winning. Well, let's run on the platform of lowering the drinking age. How do you think all of those people are going to vote?
Yeah.
You know, like it would be so easy to buy those votes. You know, up the minimum wage or something stupid like that, because guess what? Those are the people that are making that $14 an hour.
Yeah.
Tell them it's going to be 16. They will vote like crazy, like people already are.
One of my friends grew up, I'm not sure if they did this in either Poland or Denmark, but the voting age was low like this, but they weighted their votes less. It was only like 25% or something like that. So it got them into starting voting and getting political like this. But obviously, you can't just have a whole bunch of 16-year-olds changing all your laws and everything like that and turning the tides. So if they're going to do it, that would be a better way. I'm not saying it's the best way, but
I would sooner just not allow it until you're an adult, because like I still think that that's problematic, because if enough of them, it could sway that one way or another. And then you start getting into the, well, we wait, you know, kids' votes. Let's start weighting the elderly's votes too, because
We
you
don't
know,
like
they're
the
not
way
going
old
to be.
people vote because they tend to be more conservative. So we'll just discount their votes because really,
Well,
once
yeah,
you're retired,
they're-
what are you contributing to society?
well, then like they're going to be dead soon, so they don't have to live with the consequences of their actions. You know, which was
Boomers.
a you know a comment that was made you know a lot during the whole Brexit thing, because it was a lot of older conservative people that voted that way. They're like, well, the elderly, they don't have to deal with this. It's the young people. And I can see that happening here, you know, just as easily, where it's like, oh, well, you know, they voted to cut this, that, and everything else because they're old and stingy. And so let's make their vote worth half, because, you know, who cares what they think? They'll be gone.
yeah,
You know?
I'm not sure how the whole system works.
All
but
they
that was
care about
just,
is Velcro shoes and fanny packs. Like, yeah, they can, yeah, kids can go back to being kids and worry about being an adult when they actually turn of, you know, legal age for the vast majority of everything, except for drinking, which somehow they make you wait until you're a little bit older in some provinces, which is nonsense. But
Well, let's talk about being in politics and acting like an adult, which would be the complete opposite of Liberal MPP Selena. What's this? Cesar Chavanas. I don't know. I English and I French. Neither of these are that.
isn't like that the dude that like teaches dogs or something? Isn't that his name?
Different dude. Different dude. But I see where you're at. So there was a little bit of a Twitter row recently between our favorite conservative MP, one of our favorite conservative MPs, Max Bernier, and who's the finance minister? No, it's the immigration minister. Pardon me. It's that Hussein guy, the immigration minister.
Sorry, did
and
you
this
say the
Liberal MP
insane guy?
yes, and this Liberal MP, Selena Cesar, whatever. Chavanas. I'm going with that. I don't know if that's correct. I'm going with that.
close enough.
Yeah,
Close enough for government work.
Yeah.
They got into this Twitter battle over the budget because Max Bernier raises a valid point. Why is this all based on racialized minority groups? Shouldn't we be colorblind and stuff?
Well, and wasn't there like a tweet?
I want to read the.
Basing a lot of decisions based on gender and adding that into the budget recently.
Oh,
you know, that's not sexist.
So the particular tweet that there's a bunch of articles in a bunch of places about, but specifically we're following up on a National Post article because Max is not accepting the apology of the Liberal MP who told him to be quiet, which I think is great. So
yeah. Max is our guy.
The Honorable Cesar Chavanas at Max Bernier, do some research or a Google search as to why stating colorblindness as a defense actually contributes to racism. Please check your privilege and be quiet. Since our government, like research, here is some evidence linked to some nonsense in the Guardian. And
they're the authority on this, right?
Well, check your privilege and be quiet. I'm sorry. He's a straight white man. I guess he has the trifecta going for him. So
He is
you're
French,
right.
though.
Well, we're not going to hold that against him this time. So he should probably check his privilege and not make comments because, open debates about politics is not the foundation of a democracy or anything.
Especially amongst politicians.
No, certainly not. I mean, could you imagine he practically elbowed her in the titty?
Well, that's because somewhere Stephen Harper was scrolling by Twitter and somehow disrupted the force to make that almost happen. Virtually, of course. Virtually.
Butterfly effect.
Yeah. I mean, that Harper is literally Hitler. Yeah, I mean, we've ranted about this whole privilege thing, I mean, a lot on this show. And I mean, I certainly don't doubt that there are people that have got it easier because of their sex and or color, but that doesn't necessarily mean that everyone that falls into that category, to stuff it because of their sex or religion or race or whatever, and that they can't comment on something or have an opinion on something is ridiculous. And yeah, it shuts down discussion. And, obviously everyone's experiences are their own, and they may, for lack of a better word, color your opinion on something, and you need to weight that based on that. That doesn't mean their opinion is invalid.
Well, there was a good article on it.
Hi, Tim.
Of course you chime in now, liberal Tim.
Panelist. But there was a good article written by Christy Blatchford, and she was saying it was pointed out the stupidity of saying check your privilege and then saying that's a reason that you don't have the privilege to talk.
Yeah, I mean, I think anyone that tells me to do that is the one that shouldn't be able to talk.
Yeah, but to say you're white privilege, therefore you're not allowed to talk, that is, how can you still call that a privilege?
Less valuable than others. Yeah.
Yeah.
All right, let's do another one. Also from the National Post. I have Bill Nye, the science lie.
So I really encourage Canadians to pursue space, invest in space, because it leads to innovations. And I mean the traditional sense of innovation, new ways of doing things. Yeah. Because you solve problems that have never been solved before.
Well, not only do I agree, but we just appointed as our Governor General one of Canada's great astronauts, Julie Payette, who is an amazing scientist in her own right, and is focused on leading the charge in space, in science, in investment. The same way Kate Young, our Parliamentary Secretary for Science, and our Minister for Science, Kirsty Duncan, who's a Nobel Prize-winning scientist, drove this review into fundamental science and is excited about the kinds of investments we need to make.
Just let me if I may, please. Way to go.
Yeah, that's enough of that.
He said 11 times.
I appreciate
your record. All-time low.
He's a machine. He can out anyone.
So the part that I want to call attention to, as much as current iteration of Bill Nye the Science Lie disappoints me compared to my childhood memories of the man.
Well, I mean, even babies are scientists, so he could be the science guy, right?
Our science minister, Kirsty Duncan, is in fact not a Nobel Peace Prize winner. Not only does Trudeau's resume magically expand when people talk about him, apparently his ministers do too.
Well, we already knew that about the Minister of Defense.
I don't think a Prime Minister has made such a mistake like that in Canada's 100 years.
What about that province that used to exist next to Saskatchewan?
Yeah, we don't talk about them anymore. They've been stricken from the record. Sorry, Tommy.
So I understand somebody who's not involved with the IPCC process can understand that there may be some misunderstandings about what Nobel laureates or Nobel Prize winners are. In this particular case, the minister, Kirsty Duncan, was on a panel who provided a report, which was what was actually won the Nobel Prize in 2007. So she was involved in that process and it was associated with her, but it was not something that was individually awarded to her. She is not a Nobel Peace Prize recipient, so to speak. I'm sure it looks good on the soundbite machine, though.
Interesting fact, though, if you do happen to be the recipient of one of these prizes, there's an old boat in Stockholm that you can go and stand on that they only let Nobel Peace Prize winners stand on. It's pretty cool. Like, it sank in the harbor like hundreds of years ago, and like they recently pulled it up, and it's like still like mostly intact. It's pretty fucking awesome. I'm not gonna lie. But yeah, if you win, you get to actually stand on it, whatever you want. Like you just show up and be like, I'm gonna go stand on the boat now, and they can't stop you. Kind of a cool perk.
That's more of a privilege.
Yeah,
it's a super weird privilege.
Yeah.
All right, Andrew, why don't you take the next one?
Oh man, I preloaded the article. It's not showing up.
Financial Post, Netflix. Tell us about the genie being out of the bottle.
Okay, so the basics of it until I can get this stupid thing to refresh. Yeah, so Bell, Rogers, TELUS, and probably someone else is basically complaining that Netflix is allowed to get around the CRTC's regulations and all that extra bullshit and making money because they don't fall in line and they're not the streaming service isn't regulated by the CRTC. So CRTC and Bell, and they can all go fuck themselves.
Yeah.
So you're saying it's like corporations in Canada are begging the government to put roadblocks in front of their competition?
Yes.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. As Tyler put it well, corporations love regulations because they're the only ones who could fight it. They stomped out every single one of their competitors who were small time. They own way too much of the market. And now that someone else is finally able to take some of the profit from them, they're getting pissed off. They can't get their money. So they want them to get shut down, basically.
Yeah. So to elaborate on some of the finer technical points of this story, the CRTC requires that common content carriers, that is, companies that deliver television services to your home, to return, and I can't believe this is an accurate number, but this is what's quoted in the Financial Post, 30% of their revenue has to be delivered to the CRTC to promote Canadian material. They also are required to provide a certain amount of airtime to that Canadian content. I have a really hard time swallowing the 30% number, but that's what they claim. So being that companies like Netflix or Amazon Prime, which is suspiciously left out of this article, are not considered common carriers, they're not subject to the regulation that common carriers are. They are not required to have a specific amount of Canadian content. They're not required to contribute any set amount of money to producing Canadian content.
Which is why the shows on Netflix are friggin' awesome, by the way.
Yeah.
Well, and to me, this is the salute. Like we give CBC how much money? We give time to TELUS, Shaw, Chorus, Quebecor, etc. Like we give all of these companies give money to the Canadian Media Fund. We give more money to the CBC on top of that as our federal mouthpiece. The solution to this does not seem to me to be to give more regulation to companies like Netflix, because how could you possibly hope to tax every streaming service that pops up on the internet? That would be nigh unenforceable. But beyond that, why are we regulating this in the first place?
Because they don't want competition.
Well, because they don't want competition. That's absolutely the case.
Yeah, but the whole
are we saying that you must
thing
fund?
Started because, let's be honest, like, I mean, especially for the older people on the panel, like Tim and I, we grew up with like really terrible Canadian TV.
Terrible. Like I still cry sometimes.
Like it was atrocious. Like Canadian programming was.
How many channels did you have, Gavin?
I don't know. I remember like still turning the knob on our first TV.
Like so there was 13 channels on the knob, and then a U.
Yeah.
Which wasn't you.
No.
I had channel 2 and channel 8.
Yeah, it was like maybe like in Toronto with cable or whatever it was back then. It was like, yeah, like 10-ish channels plus whatever you could get via air.
And then this TRTC came in with their protection racket, and then we got TVO and all these terrible Canadian.
Like the whole.
I guess that's Ontario, but you know what I mean. It's just like.
But yeah, like I get it. Like as someone that is, you know, proud to be Canadian, and you know, given that we call ourselves the Canadian Patriot Podcast, I would say that we all are. You know, it sucks that we have to like. Nobody watched it because it was so terrible.
Yeah, like, and you think of all the shows you watch. Like they used to have Bowling for Dollars, and they had Polka Time, and they used to have like all these shows in the 80s and stuff like that, because it was all just Canadian content. The Beachcombers.
Sounds almost as bad as the current TV.
Yeah.
But like finally, like they started getting some cool shows at least being filmed in Canada. Even though they would be set elsewhere. And
there's lots of cool shows that are filmed in Canada. For example, watch Conviction on CBS and see yours truly playing a SWAT cop.
But like one of the first truly cool, like high budget Canadian TV shows was Flashpoint, in my opinion. Like they had a super good budget, good like TV. Well shot, good names in it and everything. Like that was a good show. And it actually was filmed in Canada, and like they didn't hide that. Like they were all Canadian. The first season they didn't really allude to that it was Toronto, but then after that they were like, "Fuck it, we're gonna use real place names.
Let's go to the Science Center."
Yeah, we're gonna use real street names and things like that, and not hide that at all. And it was awesome because it's like this is where I live. Like there's finally a cool TV show about the place that I live. You know, unlike calling it New York, like every fucking TV show does.
But when they go just past, a TTC streetcar driving past,
you know, and like, so yeah, they started regulating that. And like when I was in university, I had a small radio show that we did for a while, and like we had to fill out anytime we played music a CanCon sheet. So you know, in order to be Canadian content, at least in terms of music, you had, they called it MAPLE. Music, artist, production, and lyrics, and you had to have at least.
You know that costs some money.
Yeah, it's like they forced it, but somehow it worked. But like you used to have at least 2 of those 4 criteria to be considered Canadian content, which is messed up because, like an artist like Bryan Adams, who is Canadian, is not considered Canadian content because only the artist is Canadian because the music and the lyrics and the production are all in the US.
So only the guys whose actual name is the goddamn band.
Yeah. Yeah, so he doesn't count, but then technically if you have like an American artist that comes up here and like writes the song in the studio and it's published up here.
Like Celine Dion.
Yeah.
It counts as.
It counts as, so long as the, you know, production, lyrics, or music are Canadian, the artist doesn't have to be. And it's like, you know, it's so stupid because it's like, well, you get stuff that is Canadian content, but it's not legally Canadian content, so it doesn't count towards your 30%.
Was that Gowan? Was he Canadian content?
I have no, I don't know. Angela listens to Gowan, and then she was playing it the other day, and she's like, "Don't you like Gowan?" I was like, "Who the fuck is that?" So,
he's Canadian, eh?
Yeah, If it's not Trooper, I don't know who it is.
Okay. So anyway, yeah. So you can be Canadian. You can be a proud Canadian. You can be a Canadian patriot and still not like the CRTC or its
or be considered Canadian content.
Its effect.
Well, okay, let's pivot a little bit. I've got some other Canadians that you can be. You could be, for example, the Queen's Cowboys and pass out when the Prime Minister is giving a speech.
I would probably pass out if I had to sit through one of his speeches too.
Yeah,
I don't think this is going to be particularly long, but there was a recent graduation at the RCMP training depot, and 2 cadets passed out during Trudeau's speech. The audio is not very good. He just stops in the middle of his thing, and somebody falls down, and then there's a lot of like foot stomping while they move somebody off the stage. So I tried to cut the audio, but it doesn't sound very good. My dramatic retelling of it is at least as good as listening to it.
It was way better, and it was Canadian content. Yeah.
Do we qualify as Canadian content? Like, given that we're going through YouTube?
Well, since I've managed to consume a significant portion of rye whiskey, I'm willing to say that I am very Canadian at this point.
Well, yeah, that sounds fair.
I will say in defense of the cadets, when I was in the Army Cadets a long time ago, doing
like
the Remembrance. I'm 26. I'm not.
Like Friday.
Yeah, it's Friday.
Hey, Tim, do you remember being 26 or in the Army Cadets?
I don't remember Friday.
So when we do the Remembrance Day ceremonies, I think we had at least a couple people pass out, and they warned us well in advance. Make sure you move your toes and wiggle your feet and clench your muscles and stuff like that, and don't lock your knees. That's the biggest thing. And just seeing the people fall over a tree and knock over 2 or 3 other people in this path, just you feel bad for them, and it's just like, okay, well, I can't do anything. I have to stand here at attention, and I can't move. But so I kind of get where they are, but you'd think these guys would be told a little bit more than a couple 16-year-olds or whatever.
Oh yeah, no, you don't ever lock legs. That's dangerous.
I think this is a defense mechanism that protected the brain from stupidity spewing forth.
Oh no!
Much like a lizard, will detach its tail to run away.
They were sitting there, and their brain could sense another people kind comment coming on, so it just shut down. Is that?
I like your excuse better.
For me, all right. Let's talk about guns. It's that time in the show where we talk about guns.
I like guns
because I need to make more regularly occurring segments, and guns is one of them. Not just because it triggers some of our listeners, but also because I like guns.
Get it? Oh, is this behind a paywall?
No, this is not behind the paywall. Should it be?
Yeah. Do you want to hear us talk guns?
Article, sorry.
Because we need your help.
Oh, yeah. Okay, so I linked to this thing on iPolitics. iPolitics does this weird things where sometimes the articles are free and sometimes they're not. And usually by the time I put them in the show notes, they stop being free. So apologies to everyone who doesn't pay $18 a month for iPolitics. The important part I put in the show notes, and I will read in my most dramatic telling. Gun control advocates who were invited to the summit have since criticized its focus on gangs, particularly in the prairie provinces and the lower mainland of British Columbia, and gang use of guns with no discussion of reinstating and increasing controls over legal firearms. Quote, I think it's very telling that the gun lobby was very happy with the focus on illegal guns, Heidi Rathigan, a spokesperson for Polysuviant Group of Montreal, told iPolitics. Quote, they certainly don't want discussions about gun control measures which inevitably affect legal owners with controls on legal guns, Rathigan said. So, for everybody out there in podcast land, Polysuviant, not friends of the show, not people I like. Heidi Rathigan is one of their spokespeople. Polysuviant is the group that was formed to remember the shooting that took place at École Polytechnique in Montreal by Garmeet Gilby, an individual of questionable moral character who decided to kill a bunch of people and then himself.
You should have just done that.
They are unfortunately the reason why gun control in our country is the way it is. The gun laws, as they are today, were effectively all introduced in 1995 following École Polytechnique's killing, the massacre at École Polytechnique. The summit to which iPolitics is referring is earlier this week. A government panel was held in Ottawa. A number of non-government agencies were invited to attend, including the Canadian Coalition for Firearms Rights and Paul Souvent and the Canadian Coalition for Gun Control. Paul Souvent and the Canadian Coalition for Gun Control are effectively the same groups of people. I find it very telling that during the debates in the past week, the majority of illegal crime and illegal handguns was taking place with guns that were illegally brought into our country. And the quote that Paul Souvant's spokesperson wanted to provide was that the gun lobby is very happy with the focus on illegal guns. What else should they be happy about? The government wants to do something about crime. Doing anything to legal gun owners will not do anything to deter criminals. The thing to take away from this...
Criminals don't listen to the law?
It's almost as though criminals don't listen to the law. The thing to take away from this is that any ground that gun owners in our country give up, any more compromises, any calls to be reasonable are going to be met with that whatever that measure is not enough. Even the way that this is framed is baffling. There's no discussion of reinstating or increasing controls over legal firearms. Why should there need to be? What controls need to be reinstated? The long gun registry, the fact that I have to carry a piece of paper around for my shotgun or my hunting rifle, a piece of paper that does nothing to provide public security or safety, a piece of paper that allows me to continue to possess an object that I am already legally allowed to possess by the virtue of my firearms license. What possible thing could they be trying to reinstate? Of course, the scary gun lobby, the CCFR. Of course, groups like the CCFR and the NFA and the CCSA are happy that the government is targeting criminals. That's who the government should be targeting. Targeting law-abiding gun owners will do nothing to deter criminals. So why would we not focus on criminals?
Yeah, I think it was very telling, and I think it was almost like a slip up that she said that. That's like if you just go, oh, I think it's very telling. The gun lobby was very happy with the focus on illegal guns. They certainly don't want to talk about gun control measures which inevitably affect legal gun owners and controls illegal guns. So it's just it just shows you that she was kind of pissed off that the goal of their organization is not to affect illegal guns, but it's to affect
because they know they can't.
Yeah, you're right. Exactly right.
Yeah, they should change the name of the Guns and Gangs unit to legal property and citizens or something like that,
So the other thing that I want to get in, or not get into, but the other thing that I want to bring up on this is a talking point that was brought up by Paul Souvent as part of the panel that the government held. Paul Souvent and the Coalition for Gun Control, because remembering, these are the same sets of people, are saying that Canadians support a ban on semi-auto assault sport rifles.
Are they assault rifles or sport rifles? It can't be both.
Semi-auto assault sport rifles. Semi-auto assault sport rifles. I have no idea what they're trying to tell me, but I'm pretty sure they want to ban all of the guns.
It's full semi-automatic. That's what they're talking about.
I think they went full potato is what they went. Like,
Yeah, pants on head.
Well, okay,
retarded.
let's talk about how fully potato they are, because the confusing language aside, Polysuevent contracted with Environics Research to conduct an online survey between March 5th and the 8th. That's right, 3 whole days to conduct a survey.
well, on the
Online.
internet, that's like 6 years. Like, let's.
The poll had results from 1,510 respondents, 98 of whom identified themselves as gun owners. And 81% of the total respondents were in favor of prohibiting private ownership of semi-automatic assault weapons. Literally the words they used in the questions. Semi-automatic assault weapons. I don't understand. So let me read question 1 in its entirety, because maybe I'm missing context. Question 1. Most of the recent killings in the United States were committed with the help of military-style semi-automatic assault rifles, generally called assault weapons. This same type of weapon is also legal in Canada. To what extent do you agree or disagree with the following statement? Private ownership of semi-automatic assault weapons for recreational purposes should not be legal in Canada.
Oh, I hate recreation.
Yeah.
Recreation.
Their follow-up literature on the Polysuevent website with the semi-auto assault sport rifles thing is confusing, but even their own, like, the question from the research poll that's being paid by Polysuevent, so, like, conflict of interest much, bro? Hey, 9 out of 10 doctors agree smoking's not bad for you. Brought to you by Marlboro Light. See how that's a conflict of interest? This is the same kind of a problem.
I think they might have got the membership list from a certain gun club.
Oh, that pro-cancer one?
The pro-cancer gun club?
Yeah.
Yeah, I military-style semi-automatic assault rifles. That's not a thing. So not a thing.
It's not even 3 things.
Yeah. Luckily, though, I don't own any of those.
Good times. Good times.
All I have is semi-automatic sporting rifles, not assault sporting rifles.
Yeah, thank God.
Yeah.
I do have I have a semi-automatic sporting rifle that has more annihilating firepower. Because I'm sure that was in the manual.
Someone was reading the Norinco handbook?
Yes.
Yeah, I was going to say that sounds like a Norinco manual. Yes, you must be wary of the annihilating firepower of the SKS.
Yes, more annihilating recreation.
This poll is also only 3 questions long.
Yeah, it's 3 questions, 3 days, opt-in, no useful information,
and 3 people
and
were
organized by someone being paid for by a very biased political advocacy organization.
That's top tier, just like Bill Nye's science.
Yeah.
Unquestionable.
I have an idea that might help resolve some of this. So if the Coalition for Gun Control and the Coalition for Firearms Rights just had like a battle royale.
A duel? Could we have a duel?
Well, yeah. But like I just pictured like they pick their top 30 guys, we pick our top 30 guys or girls or whatever. Like I don't want to assume anyone's gender or anything, and we just have like a battle royale. Like, every 2 minutes we send someone new into the ring, and like the last people standing wins. That sounds fair, right? Like then we can stop.
You talking gangs of New York style?
Whatever.
Remember that this is an entertainment program, and the comments of the panelists don't necessarily reflect the views of the ownership or management.
No, but we would vote for it to become legal, and then it would be legal.
Yeah.
Yeah, so to speak, hypothetically.
Wait, but if we
illegal. I'm not suggesting anything illegal. I'm just saying we make it legal.
if we film it and put it on like pay-per-view, it becomes legal, right?
It'll be Canadian content.
Yeah, it's not like, like if I go and have sex with someone for money, it's illegal. But if I film it and put it on the internet, then it becomes porn and it's legal, right? So
I think I'm remembering Friday now that you mentioned that.
I don't need to know that. Let's
if we
alienate a third of our audience by talking about Ontario, because we don't talk about Ontario enough in this show, which is actually why I've been intentionally excluding the Ontario Progressive Conservative leadership election. The PC primary is over. The winner is,
I believe you mean the dumpster.
Undecided. Oh no, the dumpster fire is well and truly underway with the Ontario.
It's a blaze.
Oh yeah,
that's the new dumpster fire.
Throw more wood on.
But
come on, get some tires.
A whole bundle of sticks.
Yeah. Oh, several.
Yeah, I guess we should start with. That Doug Ford is maybe the leader of the Ontario Progressive Conservatives now.
Currently, he is the leader, allegedly.
Except according to that crazy Elliott lady who disagrees because she's doing her very best Hillary Clinton impression that she won the popular vote.
Man, you remember when we had Patrick Brown in charge of the party and everyone hated it?
Let's just cut the bullshit. This is Ontario. This has nothing to do with popularity in the Conservative Party.
No, like this is dumb. So Christine Elliott won the popular vote and the majority of ridings, and is citing concerning irregularities in regards to there are serious irregularities in the race, particularly with the balloting system that was used for the elections.
Yeah, hearing about that, it sounds like a complete shit show.
Well, hey, why don't we talk about the way that the PC party in Ontario finds its leader? Because I wanted to draw some parallels with some stuff that the Liberals talked about during their last election campaign. So the Ontario PCs, much like the federal Conservative Party, use preferential ballots. They also use equally weighted ridings, which I find is interesting. So these were some things that had come up before when we were talking about reforming our electoral process in this country. And now the very first line from the Liberal mouthpiece, CBC: if you're perhaps mildly confused about how the Ontario Progressive Conservatives choose their leader, take comfort in the fact that you are certainly not alone. The process is relatively complex. It's designed to ensure that a candidate has support throughout the province rather than in limited geographic areas. This is not difficult stuff to understand. It's preferential ballots and equally weighted ridings. There are 124 ridings in Ontario, something to that effect. The way that the Conservative Party does their bids for leadership, each of the 124 provincial ridings receives 100 electoral votes. The number of ballots that are cast in favor of a leader in that riding are the percentage of those electoral votes awarded to that candidate. So far, so good, right? If you're in, where was that MPP Yahoo that wanted to lower the voting age? Beaches in Toronto, something like that?
That sounds about right.
I think that's a federal riding. But anyway, let's assume the Beaches is also a provincial riding. So
Beaches is a strip club, isn't it?
No, that was Jilly's that was in the Beaches.
I thought that was Peaches.
Allegedly.
Peaches is a stripper. I was talking about Beaches, the strip club.
Okay.
It's also a movie, but whatever.
If Doug Ford is in a riding and gets 50% of that votes in that riding, then 50 ballots are cast in his favor. There's a finite number of ballots, 124 ridings times 100 ballots. It doesn't matter about how popular it is. It doesn't matter if the riding has 100 people that vote in the Conservative election, or if they have 100,000 people that vote in the Conservative leadership election. They still only get 100 electoral votes. The weighted ballot system is just like how the weighted ballot system works at the federal level for the Conservative Party. They take everyone who does poorly and get rid of them and discard the votes until they have somebody that does well. I'm oversimplifying it, but that's effectively how it works. As a voter,
That's how you end up
the
with the least hated candidate winning.
It's the least hated. This is, yeah. So the preferential ballot allows the voter to rank their candidates. If there's no clear majority on the first choice, the last place candidate is eliminated, along with any other candidate with 10% or less of the votes. And they repeat this process until they have a clear majority winner. It's not particularly difficult to follow. So the combination of things determines how we get the leader of the party. Doug Ford won, somehow, by a narrow margin. And there are apparently some voting irregularities, which stands to reason because there was a bunch of voting irregularities regarding the federal conservative leadership, which is why we have Scheer instead of Mad Max. I hope that Christine Elliott decides to concede and allow Doug Ford to carry on with the rest of the campaign now against the Liberals, NDP, and various other parties that might decide to run in Ontario. As far as the outcome of the leadership race, I think Doug Ford won. I don't think he did it by a very large margin. But within the terms of the preferential ballots, I think that he came out on top. We'll see what happens, I guess, in the coming weeks if she decides to concede or not. I guess this is as good a point as any to talk about Doug.
I hope it's better than win.
Well, okay, so this is the thing. The attack ads have already started. The only stuff that I know about Doug Ford is from what I had seen on television when he was a Toronto City Councilman. I have seen maybe 5 whole minutes of video of him being in Toronto City Council and yelling at other councillors. I find that very entertaining. I don't know that it makes for a particularly good premiere. But on the other hand, neither does win.
My comment when I was reading the article was at least when we legalize pot, we'll have somebody that knows how to sell it properly.
Because the drugs, I get it. That's funny. Breaking news.
Buying...
Quality interning from Josh on YouTube. Apparently, Elliot has at some point very recently conceded and is now endorsing Ford.
Well, there you go. I don't know. I have big problems with any of those like political dynasty families, which they seem to be turning into, because it's like, you know, at that point they kind of like just want the power, it seems. But like, also, if you were buying pot in like the 80s, you were probably buying it from him in one way or another. And then there's something weird with like his sister getting kidnapped or something too. I seem to recall there was something shady going on there. And then like we all know that like his brother was a complete train wreck, at least in terms of his behavior.
As much as his brother was a train wreck in his personal life, as the mayor of Toronto, you have to admit that he got a lot more done than the last couple of mayors of Toronto did.
Fair. But like,
right. So I'm not condoning the use of like cocaine and hookers, but like at least he got some stuff done.
Yeah, I mean, I don't know. Luckily, like nothing tragic happened in Toronto under his watch, because could you imagine if he was like freebasing cocaine while banging multiple hookers and speaking in a Jamaican accent, that like something bad happens and all of a sudden a camera's in his face and he needs to act sober and normal to be like the rallying voice and face of a city. Like, thank God that never happened, because that would have been a complete friggin' disaster. But to his credit, despite being I don't even know if I want to use the word functional alcoholic, he did manage to get some stuff done, strangely enough.
Yeah, and that's like, I'm not condoning the use of the alcohol, but at least when it came to like running the city, yeah, he maybe didn't do a great job.
Yeah. He did manage to get something.
It's not a great job, but he was definitely a lot more productive as a mayor than the last two.
But it's funny because like the Liberals are going to be saying, "Oh, like you can't elect him. Like he sold pot. That thing we've been fighting to legalize for 25 years."
Yeah, that'll be funny, won't it?
Yeah, I mean it'll be entertaining. I mean, if nothing else, it'll be entertaining. I mean, we'll go from a popcorn salesperson to a pot salesperson. I mean,
yeah.
I have to say, I'm not particularly happy about this, but I was not particularly happy with Patrick Brown at the helm of the Conservative Party in Ontario. I would like to try less government, but if I can't have less government, I would at least like less offensive government.
I think
the Conservative Party offends me the least because they want to steal the least amount of my dollars.
Yeah, that's the big one. And I think what we should do is we should try to get Doug on the podcast, and maybe we could host it next week from his mother's basement.
I'm in.
Only if we can ride our bikes to his house.
Yes.
Yeah, I don't know what to think about this. I mean, I didn't like Patrick Brown. I think he basically got, politically assassinated right up until this point. And then I'd be curious to see, who paid the network to do this. Like, was it Doug Ford? I don't know. I'm not saying it was. I'm just starting rumors. But he all of a sudden showed up, and same with this chick. I think it would have just been Brown that won because everyone would have been like, yeah, the guy that's in is fine. And then all of a sudden, this weird.
I'm inclined to agree. I think it would have remained Brown had Brown not been violently removed from political office.
Yeah, and I don't like the guy. I think he would have done a mediocre job. But at least there wouldn't have been a media circus around the guy. There would have been a certain level of professionalism and decorum, which I don't think that we're going to get with Ford, and not necessarily because of him, but because of his name and his association with his brother and all the other nonsense in their family, and then the media trying to make him look bad because he is a Ford, even if he does nothing wrong.
And this actually excites me a little bit about this process because I'm not huge on populist candidates, which I think Ford is going to play the populism card. Yeah. But he will get a lot of media play because the media has turned conservative politics into blood sports, and it gets viewership. I'm hoping that means that having the name recognition of them talking about Ford every day between now and the provincial election, I hope that means that we're going to get some name recognition when it's time to go to the polls and a bunch of conservatives show up and vote, because I think we're getting to the point in Ontario where the people that are anywhere to the right of Kathleen Wynne are tired of Kathleen Wynne and her ilk. And how much worse could this populist candidate be? So, okay, maybe he's not a crazy white nationalist. Maybe he's not even a civic nationalist, but he doesn't like government. He wants to kick the current PM out, and he says mean things about the stupid woman. Paraphrasing what I expect voters will take from the media. Not calling Kathleen Wynne. I would never publicly libel a politician like that.
Is it libel to call her
an entertainment program? Slander, maybe? I'm not sure. In any event, this is an entertainment program. We do this for the lulz. But I'm heartened to see what will happen with the media in this case, because they're going to talk about him in the news constantly, and there's basically anyone to the right of Wynne is tired of how she's doing things, so literally anything else could be better.
Yeah.
Nothing else? Nobody? Yeah. Nobody? Okay, let's move on to the next thing. Gavin, upcoming stuff. Tell us about upcoming stuff.
Well, we've got a bunch, or at least I've got a bunch, and then some of these other yahoos may show up as well. Next weekend is the Toronto Sportsman Show. So myself and my girlfriend Angela, who has been on the show, we will both be working the CCFR booth. which, as Marty put it on the weekend, is in like the sort of beaded curtain, cordoned off area of the show, kind of back like when they used to have video rental places and they kept the adult movies back there. That's where they keep all the guns. Massive show, tiny gun section, but I will be there talking to many, many FUDs and letting them know that, yes, you can hunt with 10 rounds in your rifle, and semi-automatic is okay. But if you're looking for boats or fishing gear, you can come and check that out, or just come and say hi. Like I said, Angela will be there. A bunch of the other CCFR gunny girls will be there. If you haven't got a calendar yet, come on out. They'll sign it for you. You can take photos with them, or me. I'll take a photo with you too, if you're into that. But the bigger, more exciting one is TACCOM, because I'll be there. Andrew will be there. Angela will be there. I believe even Benny will be there on the Sunday. That's going to be down at FOC, so Firearms Outlet Canada in Ajax, who we're big fans of because they've supported some of our charity stuff. Great store. Their new store is even nicer than their old one if you haven't been there. This is going to be the event of the year. Everyone's going to be there. Lots of friends of ours. So definitely come check us out at that one. I think I've got everything.
Will Heidi Rathagen be there?
I hope so, because I'll be standing in front of the store because we have an outdoor booth. I hope so.
Apparently, when she came to the thing that they had the other day, there was a bit of a stare down between her and some other people, and apparently she had 2 plates of the buffet for lunch. So, and that's about all she did all day. It was just go there for the free lunch. Not surprising.
Lunch.
Color me unimpressed.
Yeah, no, seriously though, guys, listeners, if you're gonna pick between one show or the other, come out to TACCOM, buy some bandages and shit from us, because Andrew and I be there working a booth, hawking the first aid stuff and the Mantis stuff. What else? Some 511 gear, some high speed gear, pouches and stuff. All the cool operator apparel, so you too can be super high speed, low drag, or maybe not quite so high speed or low drag, but you'll look cool.
Regular speed.
Yeah, some drag.
Medium speed, a little bit of drag.
Yeah, depends how many chicken wings and beer we have the night before,
You like the Ford Focus of sports cars.
Yeah.
Ouch.
Yeah. Middle of the pack.
I'm sorry, was that too close to home?
I just wish I got the better one.
Oh, wow. Okay. I did not mean to direct that personally. I apologize. Let's also remind everybody, if you haven't signed up for the 8th Annual Canadian Firearms Podcast or Charity Shoot, you're probably not staying in Campbellton.
It's true.
So I wish you good luck with the drive from wherever you will be in New Brunswick, because I'm pretty sure all the hotels are full now. 3 days, July 5th to the 7th. I will be there. Gavin will be there. Various and assorted other people we know will be there.
I think Trevor said he can take 36 people in his house. If you want to contact Trevor.
Yeah. Yeah, but there's a stipulation, though. You have to dress up like a clown while you're there. If you do, you don't have to pay him any sort of rent or anything. Like
yeah. And then he said, like, the ground floor windows. If the house fills, just stand outside ground floor windows and look in.
Yeah.
In clown attire.
Yeah. Make sure you have the squeaky shoes too.
Yeah. Yeah.
This is key.
Yeah.
All right, so we've got that out of the way. Is there anything else? Oh, we've got rapid fire feedback. I almost forgot about our email. We've got an email this week from JN. Good morning. As father of 4, taxpayer, and firearms owner, I appreciate the work you guys do and the show you put on each week. Holding government accountable is a fundamental democratic responsibility, especially when the same government chooses not to do so itself. I do believe legal firearms owners are the current whipping boy. Sorry, didn't mean to assume gender. Whipping person for the failing liberal government. I found it refreshing in your host comments regarding the breakdown of family as one of the chief contributors to society's current status. Not many people would acknowledge that. To find the opinion on the fringes of the interwebs is encouraging. Your host, main host, Andrew, mentioned an author who is associated with the libertarian movement. The host mentioned the author and the idea of non-aggression, and I was hoping to get the name of that person as well as the title of the book. I know it was mentioned in the last episode, but the name escapes me. Thank you for your time. Keep up the good work. By the way, Andrew sounds a lot like retired newscaster Robert Fisher. Jan. And if I'm not mistaken, Jan was listening to the live show earlier today, if not somebody else on the YouTubes with a very similar call sign. The book to which I'm referencing, which Jan will find an email and everyone else listening can find in the show notes. The book that I recommended is called Democracy, the God That Failed, and was written by Hans Hermann Hoppe. If you don't want to read it in the original German, there are translations in other languages, including my preference, English, the greatest language. By greatest, I mean the one that has the most cultural appropriation by stealing words from other languages.
Friggin' right, eh?
Yeah, it has incredibly confusing grammar.
That's right. None of the rules make sense, but whatever.
Like government.
And
When
you can
your
ignore those
country
rules
builds
like the
an-
prime minister.
When your country builds an empire that spans the globe, then you get to dictate the language everyone speaks. In the meantime, English.
Yeah.
I, for one, welcome our new Chinese overlords.
Can we make the empire great again? Can we do that?
Lots of good feedback on YouTube tonight. Thanks, guys.
Yeah, we appreciate the dozen listeners that are on the YouTube.
Everyone's still talking about Gowan, aren't they? How he was the greatest.
It seems to me there was something else I wanted to address in this, but I don't recall what. Oh, yeah, the fringes of the internet. I don't know that we're on the fringes of the internet. We have almost as many likes as the Modern Rifleman Radio guys.
Yeah, we're coming for you guys.
We get Modern Rifleman Radio, then we get New Shooter Canada, and then we get Slamfire. Then we the king of the Facebook likes. Look at us.
Oh yeah.
We the Facebooks now.
Yeah. I mean, everybody knows that we're the best Canadian podcast. Everyone knows this.
Well, I think we're the best. I find we're the most entertaining. As someone who listens to our podcast after we do it, and also their podcasts after they do it, I find ours is the most entertaining.
It's science.
And you've already done this one once.
Yeah. That's right.
And it's still entertaining.
Some of the jokes are still funny the second time around.
I mean, just like they're copying our formats now by going live.
Our podcast has 400% more Brutus than the other podcasts.
It's true. Even though he's kind of a lazy little lump in the back, just licking his paws, but he's there. He's there. It's my little buddy.
Was there anything else with this? Yeah, non-aggression, Hans Hermann Hoppe, Democracy, the God That Failed.
The other books you should read, though, are what's his face that wrote the Starship Troopers. That's another good one.
Robert Heinlein, I believe.
Heinlein.
Yeah, that's some other good books.
Go read Robert Heinlein.
Yeah, a little bit different, a little bit more aggressive, but and also a good political model.
Yeah, Hans Hermann Hoppe is good. There's a number of books that you can find through the Mises Institute that are all reasonably accurate with regards to the libertarian social order as well as economics, like the Austrian School of Economics, because these are very highly related concepts. So go and look at the Mises Institute, I guess. And for fun, maybe check out George Lincoln Rockwell, because that'll be a good read for you.
Yeah, I mean, there's also the other classics like Atlas Shrugged, if you want to go old school and all of that,
Oh, I can't stand Ayn Rand. I would never promote Ayn Rand's works as something that libertarians should read. Those novels are objectively terrible. It's like how Rothbard never argues in favor of children. Like, Murray Rothbard's a smart dude. His economic policies are sound, but not arguing in favor of having children is morally dishonest, in my opinion.
Brutus is disgusted.
Yeah, he's hiding his face. It's like, government. Ugh.
All right, let's do the outro. Andrew, where can everybody find you on the internet?
Find me at andar.ca. Pretty much got links to all the social media and everything else on there.
And your other .biz site. That
Yeah,
you
okay. BetterAndrew.biz. Sorry, I'll write that in there as well.
You got to keep plugging it, man.
How much traffic does that website get? I got to know.
Enough, because I've sent it to way too many people being, hey, look at this awesome website.
Nice.
Gavin, where can everybody find you?
Aside from like the Sportsman Show and TACOM, the best place to find me is on the Instagram at urbex_GTA. Also, stay tuned for some other cool stuff that may or may not be coming out shortly. I'm working on a little thing called Guerrilla Works, so there may be some cool shit you can get through there if you like stickers and patches and stuff. So stay tuned for that.
As long as Harambe is always with us. Tim, where can everybody find you?
You can find me at facebook.com/TimsGoodT-shirts.
They're quite good.
As always, my name is Andrew. You can find me at RagnarokTactical.ca. Buy some bandages. To address the YouTube comment, yes, at some point, Josh, we should probably discuss medical gear and IFACs. I don't know when that will be. Maybe
if
it's
you'd like to
content for
discuss it
behind the
in
paywall.
person. If you'd like to discuss it in person, come find us at TACOM.
That
Definitely
is a good
have
point.
more than a roll of duct tape in your first aid kit.
Tampons, man.
Yeah.
All of them.
Moving right along. I have to apologize to Rod Giltack. I'm afraid we had to bump him. We could not fit him into the show this evening. We're a little over on time. And for all of our listeners out there in podcast land, I would like to remind you that you are the true North, strong and free. I can't end the podcast because I can't get to the button. Just bear with me.